When you think about the Luftwaffe, you'll probably think about the Bf-109, the Focke-Wulf 190 or the Me-262. But all of these planes had one thing in common. The pilot inside had to learn his craft before being allowed to get anywhere close to them. That's where today's star comes in. Granted, it might not be as shiny as the legendary fighters of the Second World War, but not only did it allow the Luftwaffe to build up its ranks with a reliable machine, but it even has a surprising combat history to boot. The Jungmann. Hello everybody and welcome back to Military Aviation History. I'm your host Bismarck and today we're in Lausanne, Switzerland, having a look at the Bücker Bü-131 Jungmann, a trainer aircraft built in the mid-1930s. This aircraft is maintained in flight-worthy condition here in Switzerland by AMPA. As always, before we hop inside, I'll be giving you a brief introduction into an aircraft that is more than it seems. Bücker Flugzeugbau established itself near Johannisthal in Berlin in 1932. As such, it was one of the youngest aircraft companies in the business, coming in right before the National Socialist grab for power. Yet Karl Clemens Bücker, the owner, was not new to aviation. During the First World War, he had been a naval aviator. In 1921, he found himself in Sweden, where he founded the Svenska Aero to build licensed production planes for other companies, for example, Heinkel. Just before returning to Germany with his Swedish colleague Anders Andersson, not the footballer, the aircraft designer, he sold the company to the, and I'm going to butcher this name, the AB Svenska Järnvägsverkstädernas Aeroplansavdelning. Back in the fatherland, Bücker had little success. It seems his foreign assets and time abroad was deemed suspicious. At the same time, however, Bücker's aircraft did not seem to fit the bill of what Germany wanted at this point. His primary suggestion from 1933 was presented to the German Reichsluftfahrtministerium, the Air Ministry. This was the Bücker Bü-131. It was designed for sports, aerobatics and training use, powered by the 80 horsepower Herf engine. Built in 4 months' time, the first flight was in April 1934. This did go well, but then Bücker found no major government contract at home, so he turned to the civilian and export market. The Deutscher Luftsportverband was one of the first clients, while the plane was exported also to countries like Yugoslavia, Bulgaria and Romania, amongst others. Licenses were also sold to Switzerland, Spain, Hungary and Japan. Japan actually built around 1,400 of these machines, known to the Army as the Ki-86 and the Navy as the K-9W2. By 1936, the German Air Ministry posted an official memo citing their vision for future training aircraft. To even qualify, Bücker actually needed to upgrade his engine of the aircraft to at least 100 horsepower, so the upgraded Herf HM504 was chosen to fit the bill. This aircraft became known as the B version of the Bücker 131, with production commencing in 1936. Backed by the favorable reception of the Jungmann, as it was now known, governmental contracts did start rolling out in 37 and 38. The plane remained, however, on the back burner compared to its main competitors, such as the Focke-Wulf 44 Stieglitz. In fact, by mid-1937, the total number of Jungmanns to Stieglitzes was about 1 to 5 in the German arsenal. An ironic incident made this worse when a Stieglitz actually crashed into the final assembly hangar of Bücker, knocking out production for over 2 months. Nevertheless, both A and B models were used in pretty much all of the training schools of the Luftwaffe, where they were well liked and respected, with a final German production run of just under 2,000 machines. It is also estimated that about 4,000 planes were produced in addition to that worldwide. In the meantime, Bücker had also designed the Bücker 133 Jungmeister and the Bücker 181 Bestmann, looking very similar in fact to the Messerschmitt 108. The 181 was surprisingly well received by the German Air Ministry, setting it as the gold standard in 1941, to which future trainer aircraft would have to match up to. When the 131 started to be phased out of the training schools, the question remained, what to do with all these aircraft? Opportunities to sell them on the foreign market were somewhat limited, courtesy of the war. The decision then was made to send these aircraft to the front lines as liaison aircraft or to take part in nightly Störangriffe, disruption attacks. Up to 3 Nachtschlachtgruppen seem to have received the Jungmann, amongst which were specifically formed groups of Estonian and also Latvian pilots. The Jungmanns were generally reserved for liaison and training duties in those squadrons, but it's reported that they also saw some combat as well. Although, I gotta say, personally, I'm a bit skeptical how much of this actually took place with the Jungmann itself. The aircraft is 6.6 meters in length, has a span of 7.4 meters and a height of 2.2 meters. It is powered by the 4-cylinder air-cooled HERF HM504 with a maximum power output of 105 horsepower. This allowed it to gain a top speed of about 182 kilometers an hour. Endurance was set at a maximum of 1 hour 45 minutes with a range of 650 kilometers. It had a relatively low ceiling at 4,500 meters, but that was more than was needed. Empty, the aircraft weighs about 400 kilograms and goes up to 670 for maximum takeoff weight. Looking over the design, you will find a tubular steel constructed fuselage covered with fabric, wings featuring a wooden skeleton covered again with fabric, the same as the control surfaces on the aircraft. The wings are angled slightly backwards, and what's really nice, they're actually modular, so the top wing can be fitted in the lower position and vice versa. It has dual control as you'd expect and a sturdy fixed gear. The HERF engine itself has some issues on this particular machine and needs a lot of maintenance to run well. As you might have guessed, it is a relatively simple machine. Nothing fancy, just honest feet on the ground engineering with easy maintenance for the time. Let's hop on board. Right now, so inside of the Bücker there are of course 2 seats. There is a tandem seating with the student up front and the instructor behind. There is actually a very good reason why I'm in the instructor seat, and that is because the student has very limited instruments up front. The only thing he has is a speedometer, an altimeter and a turn and bank indicator. And this is so that he can essentially focus only on the flying and learning these instruments. This really is just a basic trainer. The pilot, who also shares controls with the student, has all of the instruments that are required to monitor the engine, to start the engine, and everything you need beyond that for navigation. A very clean little instrument panel up front. We're starting in the top left with the speed. We're moving over to the middle to a compass, then a variometer to the right of that, followed by a clock. Going down from that, we have the fuel pressure, we have the RPMs of the engine, we've got a turn and bank indicator, and of course we've got the altimeter, and then followed by the magnetos all the way on the left again. The primer is all the way on the right, and there's a couple of other controls scattered throughout the cockpit. On his right he has the elevator trim. On the left he has of course the throttle and the mixture set there. He's got the fuel cock nicely out of the way, he's not gonna hit that by accident, and he also has a control for the tail wheel to lock and unlock it. That's pretty much all there is in this aircraft. It's a very basic sort of design. Everything is here. And I gotta say, even though my initial impression was that I'm somewhat cramped in here, it does feel a little bit claustrophobic, considering that I'm somewhat taller than the people at the time, and now that I'm actually sitting inside it, it's actually quite comfortable. The access to the stick is relatively easy. You can move it as you want. You're not gonna be interfered with your legs. And the only thing that is a little bit weird is that you actually have the rudder pedals right next to essentially where your student is going to be sitting. So I feel like you could maybe interfere a little bit with him, but it's a minor complaint, really. Overall, it's a very clean presentation. It gets the job done. And yeah, this is where all those Luftwaffe instructors would have been sitting, teaching all the famous aces or non-aces of the Luftwaffe, who would be up there not even knowing how to fly in a straight line in the beginning. So yeah, let's look at how we actually start this aircraft up. To start up a Jungmann, essentially you have somebody up front giving the air screw 8 revolutions. At that point, to your left, you'll open up the fuel cock. You will set the mixture to full rich, and you start priming the engine 4 times. That is followed for another 4 revolutions up front. At this point, you'll apply the brakes. You pull the stick all the way backwards. You will set the contact on the magnetos, and you'll have somebody up front giving the air screw a good swing. And if everything goes well, it fires and the engine starts smoothly. The Bücker 131 is a favorite of many that flew it. It's an honest machine, treats you well, and has a neat little history attached to it. Next to training many pilots back in the day, it broke multiple records, became a staple of aerial aerobatics, even still by the 1960s, and continues to stand proud to this very day. When the Bücker Company grounds were overrun by the Soviet Army in 1945, the company was shut down indefinitely. But while Bücker was no more, the Jungmann lived on and continued to be produced abroad for many years. And several flight-worthy examples continue to be maintained to this very day. Thank you very much for watching, and I want to thank AMPA for making this very episode possible. If you enjoyed this content, please do consider supporting us via Patreon or PayPal, as this support does help us film future videos. And remember also to share this video. As always, have a great day, good hunting, and see you in the sky.